creatine and VO2 max. This is one of the more persistently confused areas in creatine science, and the confusion goes both ways. Some people expect creatine to improve their VO2 max and are disappointed when it doesn't. Others dismiss creatine entirely for endurance sports because it doesn't help aerobic fitness. Both positions miss the actual story. Let's start with what VO2 max actually is. VO2 max TOS, maximal oxygen uptake, is the maximum rate at which your body can consume oxygen during maximal aerobic exercise. It reflects the integrated capacity of your cardiovascular system to deliver oxygen and your muscles to extract and use it. It's one of the best predictors of endurance performance and cardiovascular fitness. VO2 max is primarily determined by cardiac output, how much blood your heart can pump per minute, and by mitochondrial density and aerobic enzyme activity in muscles. Creatine supplementation does not significantly change cardiac output, mitochondrial density, or the aerobic enzyme activity that determines VO2 max. The aerobic energy production pathway is not what creatine directly expands, so the claim that creatine raises VO2 max is not supported by the research. Studies consistently show no significant change in measured VO2 max with creatine supplementation in either trained or untrained populations. But here's the more context-specific story. VO2 max and endurance performance are not the same thing. An athlete's ability to perform well in an endurance event is determined by VO2 max, lactate threshold, and efficiency, but also by their ability to sustain high relative intensities, resist fatigue, and maintain economy of movement late in a race. Several of these latter factors are influenced by creatine in ways that don't appear in a VO2 max test. In sports with intervals, accelerations, and brief surges of high intensity within an otherwise aerobic event. Road cycling, triathlon, team sports, rowing, creatine can benefit the high-intensity components even when the overall sport is predominantly aerobic. A cyclist who can sprint harder on the finishing kilometer because their phosphocreatine system is more fully charged performs better in a race even if their VO2 max didn't change. A rower who can sustain higher power output through the race's critical moments benefits from creatine's phosphocreatine expansion, even in an event that's predominantly aerobic. There's also an indirect path. Creatine's ability to support higher quality, high-intensity training sessions, interval work, threshold efforts, sprint training, allows endurance athletes to generate a stronger aerobic adaptation signal. Better training quality produces better aerobic adaptations. So while creatine doesn't directly raise VO2 max, it can indirectly support the training that does. The honest summary, creatine is not an endurance supplement in any direct sense, but dismissing it entirely for endurance athletes overlooks the indirect training quality benefit and the performance relevance of the high-intensity components present in virtually every real-world endurance sport. For endurance sports specifically, the VO2 max conversation intersects with a newer research area: high-intensity interval training and its interaction with creatine. High-intensity interval training, HIIT, is one of the most effective methods for improving VO2 max and aerobic capacity. HIIT works by repeatedly pushing the cardiovascular system close to its maximum oxygen uptake, creating the adaptation signal that improves cardiac output and mitochondrial density. The intervals themselves, typically 30 seconds to 4 minutes at near maximal intensity, are partly powered by the phosphocreatine system. An athlete whose phosphocreatine system is fully charged can sustain higher power output during HIIT intervals. Higher power during intervals means a more complete cardiovascular stress, a stronger adaptation signal, than the same duration interval performed at lower power due to phosphocreatine limitation. Creatine supplementation in the context of HIIT training may therefore indirectly improve VO2 max outcomes, not by directly affecting aerobic enzymes, but by allowing the HIIT intervals that train them to be performed at a higher quality. This is the training quality compounding argument applied specifically to endurance adaptation. A few small studies have examined creatine's effect on HIIT adaptations and found modestly larger improvements in aerobic capacity in supplemented versus unsupplemented groups, consistent with the training quality hypothesis. The effect is not large. Creatine is still not primarily an aerobic supplement, but the indirect aerobic benefit through HIIT quality improvement adds another dimension to the argument for creatine use in endurance athletes who include high-intensity training in their program.